also could mean that guys like Lawrence Okoli, and especially if it's your right eye, if Jake's getting hit in his right eye, that usually would mean that he's getting jabbed, because that jab in orthodox would come out from the left hand on the right eye side.
And that experience would have been somewhat of a dawn of realization upon Jake Paul that this is actually happening now. So to an extent, I'll be honest, I actually feel sorry for Jake Paul. I mean, I don't.
Jake Paul was reportedly knocked out by a heavyweight sparring partner while preparing for his fight against Anthony Joshua. He recently revealed a bruised and swollen eye, explaining that the injury occurred during a sparring session with Lawrence Okoli.
Keep it going. Way too long. There you go. Good round, Jake. Check that.
Joey Knight revealed that Jake Paul has been training with top heavyweight fighters, including Lawrence Okoli, Frank Sanchez, and Jared Anderson. During these sessions, Paul suffered visible injuries, highlighting the extreme intensity of the sparring. Knight described this as Paul's toughest week of training, noting that the power and skill of his sparring partners caused significant damage. The bruises and marks seen afterward showed the physical toll of preparing for a fighter of Anthony Joshua's caliber. According to Knight, Paul is facing challenges far greater than anything he has encountered before, as even controlled sparring with elite heavyweights can result in serious injuries and test his readiness for the ring.
5 ranked Lawrence Okoli. That is who Jake Paul has been sparring with over these past few weeks.
Trouble finding Hussein Mohammed early on.
And a lot of you guys will know this because Jake Paul showed the bruises and marks on his face and said that it was Lawrence Okoli that had done that. And faces don't necessarily tell you how a spar went. Some guy can have blood all over him, he can have a busted up nose, but he still won the rounds in sparring. But I can only imagine that this week has been a very, very humbling experience for Jake Paul. In fact, the past few weeks will have been eye-opening for Jake Paul. A past few weeks where he has sparred the likes of Lawrence Okoli, of Jared Anderson, and of Frank Sanchez as well. And being that I have seen Jake Paul go life and death with Tommy Fury, you can guarantee you that Okoli, that Anderson, and that Frank Sanchez have basically manhandled Jake Paul in there. And that experience would have been somewhat of a dawn of realization upon Jake Paul that this is actually happening now. So to an extent, I'll be honest, I actually feel sorry for Jake Paul. I mean, I don't, because then I remember the 70-odd million that he's reported to be earning at the end of this fight. But you can't deny, right, that in a world where these almost fantasy fights and whatnot are making such a shitload of cash, that Jake Paul's probably being paid in line for this fight, actually. And the reason I say he's being paid in line is because I really don't think it takes a genius to work out where I'm going with my prediction for this fight. And that is obviously, no, in fact, drum roll, please. AJ via knockout, obviously, technical knockout, if Jake gets
Jake Paul's decision to spar with elite heavyweights has attracted heavy criticism from boxing analysts and fans. While Paul has gained attention for facing notable opponents, his preparation for a fight against Anthony Joshua highlights just how difficult the challenge will be. Training footage shows Paul absorbing immense power from heavyweight sparring partners, exposing weaknesses that were not evident in his previous fights. Wade, a respected boxing analyst, claims that these sparring sessions reveal major vulnerabilities. Reports suggest Paul was knocked out during practice, indicating difficulty handling the strength and punching power of experienced heavyweights. This raises serious questions about whether Paul's confidence matches his actual readiness to face a former heavyweight champion like Joshua.
Question is, which one of those two things is happening? And question is, how is it going down? Because what we know about Anthony Joshua is that he has a nasty lead hook, and he's going to have a reach advantage on Jake, just like Lawrence Okoli does in the gym, which is why Jake has brought him in. So that jab's going to be effective. That lead hand of AJ is going to be effective. How does Jake maneuver around that? And again, you can look at this a couple of ways. One, okay, you get hit with it in camp, so you don't get hit with it in the fight, which is why you bring these heavyweights in. It's why you bring Jared Anderson, Lawrence Okoli, Frank Sanchez in. Or two, there's a massive flaw in what Jake's doing, that he's continually getting hit with this, and the indication that he's getting hit by Okoli means he's going to get hit the same way with Anthony Joshua. I tend to believe a little bit of both, right? You do this so that it doesn't happen, but also how much can Jake really learn and to avoid something that's coming out with the jab or with the lead hook, or just again the distance control and the range of a guy like Coley and a guy like AJ that...
Video footage of Paul sparring shows him repeatedly taking punches to the chin from heavyweight fighters, leaving visible marks and demonstrating the physical toll of these sessions. Training with fighters such as Lawrence Oakley is far more intense than anything Paul has previously experienced. Observers note that the combination of size, power, and technical skill in these sparring partners is exposing weaknesses in Paul's defense and durability.
4'6'5". He isn't 250 pounds. He's not a natural heavyweight. And you could say that's an advantage to Jake. He's going to be able to move around a little bit. Again, we'll talk about his feet in a second. But it's more to me the fact that what we're not seeing is the biggest weakness of Jake's, on top of the fact that he's gotten an eye smashed up in sparring. They said Frank Sanchez made his nose look like a crescent moon. We'll get to that in a second. Lawrence Oakley is giving him a freaking shiner in sparring. So again, you could say that's great work from Jake to be able to have these high-level guys come in, but you also have to admit that he's getting hit, and he's getting hit a lot by guys that aren't Anthony Joshua in terms of their skill and ability, or at least not at the highest level that AJ has been to. So,
but we brought in world champion heavyweight sparring partners, guys who are 270 pounds, 250 pounds. You know, sparring them, you know, has been insane. I still got the remnants of
I see you taking a little shot there. I like that you're taking those shots, though.
Castillo, a well-known boxing analyst, speaks bluntly about the situation, stating that stepping into the ring with Anthony Joshua would be brutal for Paul. He believes that even with intense sparring preparation, Paul's chances of withstanding Joshua's knockout power are extremely low. Castillo adds that if Paul manages to survive 3 rounds, it would already be considered an achievement. The message is clear. While sparring with heavyweights provides experience, it cannot fully prepare a fighter for the sustained pressure, skill, and power of an elite former champion. The gap between influencer boxing and a world-class heavyweight bout is enormous.
Now, I think it could go, honestly speaking, if Jake can last 3 rounds, in a way he's kind of won a mental victory, because I'll be real, I think everybody's expecting AJ to come there and blast him out in 1 round. But I think a moral victory would be if Jake just lands 1 stun punch on him. That'd be good enough for him. But kudos to Jake Paul for even doing this, because honestly speaking, like, I'm not gonna lie to you, one of the greatest moments that I've witnessed in boxing history, and I know Jake Paul is obviously an influencer, and I'm a boxing fan. Like, I love boxing. So this is a bit weird to say that this is quite a huge moment, but just when he came out last year and he came out with his brother and he came out on a little rider, I got goosebumps, because in that moment I said to myself, how can anybody watch this and not feel like dreams can't come true? He must even surprise himself looking at that and think to himself, how on earth am I even here fighting Mike Tyson? And one more thing, even speaking of that, I give him a lot of respect for not knocking out Mike Tyson, because he could have. And so I respect him for that. So against AJ, and for AJ as well, like, AJ gets a lot of flack, but at the same time, I think AJ's what? He's like about 35, 36, 37 right now. He doesn't really have anything else to prove right now, so why not cash out with a big fight against Jake?
Simon Jordan, speaking alongside a TalkSport host, discussed Anthony Joshua's one-punch knockout power and how it dramatically raises the risk for Paul. As the fight approaches, it is being viewed less as an exhibition and more as a genuinely dangerous contest. Analysts emphasize that Joshua's knockout ability is proven, based on his history as a heavyweight champion with elite timing, technique, and power. While Paul's heavyweight sparring is designed to prepare him for these moments, experts acknowledge that training under controlled conditions is very different from facing a professional heavyweight champion in a real fight.
Yet. And having Anthony Joshua in front of you, I really hope it doesn't go to that end, but it's a very, very dangerous fight.
You actually just said that if the fight goes ahead, do you believe then that this fight won't go ahead? Because there's many people that do.
I mean, I think it goes ahead, but I mean, I don't know what Jake Paul is thinking, to be honest, because you're talking about someone that is 2 times heavyweight champion of the world. Is someone that actually have got a one-punch knockout power. He understands range, he understands positioning, he understands how to set you up. He's a bigger man, he's a stronger man. I don't know where, for me, yes, I'm thinking the worst, but I want to be positive, and I really hope that both of them goes home safe with plenty of money. But looking statistically and the professionalism of the sport, I don't see the fight going past 2 rounds.
Well, interestingly, when we're recording this show, it's been announced, and it'll come after, our show will come out afterwards, that Jake Paul was doing an announcement this afternoon at, I think, something like 2 o'clock our time. So who knows what that's likely to be. Interestingly, I spoke to Eddie Hearn when the fight was first announced to try and get the take of what this really was. And his belief, Eddie's belief, and whether you subscribe to Eddie's views on this, is that he genuinely believes that Jake Paul doesn't know what he's walking into, doesn't seem to have a regard for what he's walking into, is slightly deluded about it, thinks that Anthony's a bit chinny, and thinks he has a chance in this fight. Now, I don't know about you boys, but unless you've lived under a stone, you know that Anthony Joshua can punch. The only debate about Anthony Joshua is not the physicality of Anthony Joshua, is the psychology of him. There's going to be no psychological damage to Anthony Joshua when he walks in against Jake Paul. This has jeopardy written all over it, doesn't it?
I think from Jake Paul's side, I think
For Jake Paul, physically.
Yeah, I think that Jake Paul, though, is actually deluded enough to believe that if he gets inside, that he's got.
Is he?
He must be, Simon. Otherwise, the fight wouldn't be going ahead. He truly believes that he can win this.
David Hay offers insight into Paul's mindset, suggesting that the influencer may believe he can rely on the same strategies that worked in his previous fights. Hay notes that betting on Paul to win would require imagining highly unlikely outcomes, such as controversial decisions that ignore clear skill gaps. Analysts view Paul's heavyweight sparring as bold but risky. While it may improve his endurance and familiarity with power, it also highlights the difference between preparation and reality. Once Paul enters the ring with Joshua, he will face challenges that no sparring session can truly replicate.
I think that was possible, but it is, and it's happening. And my initial thoughts were, Anthony's just going to blast him out as soon as he hits him. He's going to just punch his head in and knock him out. That was my initial thoughts.
See what I was sitting ringside when Anthony Joshua annihilated Francis Ngannou. Now Ngannou's not a boxer, but he is a fighter. He's a big lump. He knows what it takes to take punches.
He was a lot more than that going into the fight with Anthony Joshua. He'd just beaten, on my opinion, and knocked down Tyson Fury, who was the champion at the time. So I don't think that fight is a close representation of what Jake Paul brings to the table, because Anthony Joshua was going into that fight against someone who looked like they just beat Tyson Fury. So although on paper Ngannou didn't have any credentials in boxing, he had the physicality, the size, the strength, and all of that cage fighting background to somehow put together an amazing 10 rounds with Tyson Fury and lose a close fight. So Anthony Joshua went into the Ngannou fight on his best form. He went into there with that fear factor where he didn't want the performance Tyson Fury had. He wanted to really impress. So he obviously tuned right in for that fight, and the results were clear to see. Is Anthony Joshua going to go into this fight with Jake Paul with the same mindset after seeing him fight beat on points a 58-year-old Mike Tyson? My opinion is no. I think he feels zero fear in this fight. He's in a unique situation where he's going into a boxing ring with someone he doesn't believe.
Boxing is not just about surviving single punches but about responding effectively under constant pressure. Heavyweight sparring sessions are meant to develop confidence, timing, and reflexes. However, the raw power of a fighter like Anthony Joshua presents dangers far beyond anything Paul has experienced before.
An idiot. I know they're getting a lot of money to be there and it's easy work, but what is in that for Lawrence Okoli, Frank Sanchez, and Jared Anderson?
Easy money. I don't know how much he'll be paying sparring partners. I assume to get those caliber of sparring partners in, it's got to be big money.
Lawrence Okoli's got a fight coming up. If you're Joe Gallagher, are you go spar Jake Paul? Is that going to help you?
No, absolutely not. Are you going to get a bit of profile from it, perhaps? People are going to hear your name? Yeah. Does that help? I remember going to spar with Kessler, and I got £500 or euros for the week. It was the hardest money I've ever earned in my life.
But how much did you learn from?
Yeah, me, bundles.
Yeah. What's Okoli learn? I don't get it.
No.
I do get it, the money. But when you got a fight coming up, I'm thinking, really? Are you going to get anything out of that sparring that's going to help you in your fight? Maybe you are. Maybe I'm just completely diminishing Jake Paul's ability, but I'm struggling. I really am.
Fair play to Jake Paul. I mean...
And you're right, there's a bit of a conflict there because Joshua used to manage him.
Yeah, it was through 258, right?
Yeah. But surely they're smashing him to pieces. Surely Jake's going, oh, what the fuck? This is fucking horrible.
Every single one of those 3 fighters there could annihilate him in a round.
Yeah, so are they not doing that?
Barry McGuigan emphasizes the seriousness of the situation, stating that Paul is moving far beyond entertainment or influencer boxing. He explains that confidence alone cannot make up for the physical and technical differences Paul will face against Joshua. Joshua's knockout power is real, and underestimating it could lead to immediate consequences. McGuigan's view reflects the wider consensus among experienced analysts. While Paul's rise is impressive within celebrity boxing, facing a legitimate heavyweight champion is an entirely different level of challenge.
And you got Brian Norman Jr. all in the 154-pound category, so it's a tough division. So it wouldn't at all surprise me if he's unable to win a world title because the opposition is good. But maybe if he boiled down to 147 again, he would have a better chance.
Last thing I want to ask you about, Barry, is the big news regarding Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul. One of the biggest quotes, two of the quotes that stuck out to me was that David Hayes said that fight could be Jake Paul's last day on earth. And I think Gareth A. Davis has described it as a freak show. Some people are saying, AJ's grabbing the bag. There's nothing wrong with that because anybody else, if they got offered that kind of money, they would do it. So. And some people are suggesting he might damage his legacy. Where do you sit with the decision of him taking that fight? And it's a professional 8-round fight as well.
Yes, it's a highly dangerous fight for Jake Paul. I don't know what he's doing unless they have done some sort of caveat or some sort of agreement that he says he's going to go easy on him or he's not going to. He's not going to go flat out. But, I've been tossing this up and down in my mind and trying to figure how and under God, when he had agreed to fight someone like Tank Davis, who is, several divisions below him, that's more like what Jake Paul does. And then he goes from there to fighting Anthony Joshua. I mean, just look at what happened to Francis Ngannou, who's a big, athletic, tough guy and had gone 12 rounds with Tyson Fury and given him a real ding-dong. And then he gets absolutely obliterated in a round and a half against Joshua. That shows you, despite the fact that he's been knocked out since by Daniel Dubois, who could knock out anybody, by the way, in any weight division or in any era of the heavyweight division. He's such a powerful guy. He could knock anybody out if he hits them properly. But it just seems utter madness. And